Üzülüyoruz. Ama doğruya doğru amına koyayım. Yalan mı söyleyeyim? So, let's get into the Hillary Rodham Clinton conversation, the deposition that took place as Hillary Clinton testified she had no idea of Epstein's crimes. We'll start there first, and then we'll move on to some other major stories. There's certainly a lot going on in the world, so let's get right into it.
Epstein's list of powerful friends never fails to shock, and among the most powerful of all, former President Bill Clinton, pictured in a jacuzzi, swimming pool, and on a private plane. The Epstein files have no photographs of his wife Hillary Clinton with the billionaire paedophile. She does not think they ever met. But still, she was summoned first to take questions from US lawmakers investigating Epstein's crimes. The House Oversight Committee's Republican chair said there was no suggestion of wrongdoing by the Clintons, but he wanted answers about Epstein.
How did he accumulate so much wealth? How was he able to surround himself with some of the most powerful men in the world? Was he an asset for our government or any other government?
Hillary Clinton has admitted that she did know Ghislaine Maxwell well enough that you can see.
Yep. Remember this? Remember this? I've talked about this a lot. Oh, man. It's like, it's crazy. They're playing my greatest fucking hits over here for like the last decade, you know? These are some of my greatest hits over the last decade, and now it's on mainstream news. It's crazy. Larry Summers resigned. A lot of ops are falling left and right. Pretty fucking solid.
Here, she attended her daughter Chelsea's wedding. But she released an opening statement on social media saying she had no idea about Epstein's criminal activities, adding, "I never flew on his plane or visited his island." She said if this committee is serious about learning the truth, it should ask Donald Trump directly, under oath, about the tens of thousands of times he shows up in the Epstein files.
How's it going?
It would not waste time on fishing expeditions.
Hell yeah.
What is being held back, she asked, who is being protected, and why the cover-up? The deposition took place behind closed doors, with video expected later, but it was briefly disrupted when this photograph from inside was leaked.
Fucking Lobo took a sneak peek, a candid of Hillary Rodham Clinton, and then sent it to fucking Benny Johnson. And then Benny Johnson watermarked the shit out of the photo and blasted it on the timeline. My God, we are run by fucking animals. This is a country that is straight up on autopilot. There is no other way to approach it, okay? We have truly 10 IQ troglodytes in positions of profound power. Lauren Boebert is one of these people, okay? Absolute fucking clown show. First of all, if you're going to do a sneak peek, you might as well record some of the most damaging parts that they might actually try to strike from the record. You know, fuck it. If you're going to do this, if you're going to violate the rules, if you're going to violate the process, do it for something good. Like when they ask Hillary Clinton a question and her answer is off the record, you know, because that's something that happened with Les Wexner's deposition. Les Wexner was directly asked about Jeffrey Epstein's close relationship with Donald Trump, and they went off the fucking record.
To a conservative commentator. Speaking outside, committee Democrats said they were glad Hillary Clinton was taking questions, but agreed with her that there is a sense of a cover-up protecting others.
If the most powerful people in the United States of America, the elite and rich and powerful men and women, are able to get away with these heinous crimes, then we are sending a horrible message to young people in this country that powerful people will always protect themselves and the rule of law does not apply to everyone.
Questions are still being asked about Trump himself, who was once close to Epstein. The president says the files totally exonerate him, but there are reports that key material relating to a woman who made an accusation about the president could be missing. Lawmakers like Congressman
Missing. Huh. missing. Yeah, it needs more watermarks. Yeah. The full photo is insane. Full shot of the Clinton Epstein testimony currently ongoing. What a psycho, dude. Like, this is insane. Calling Bill and Hillary was a mistake by the idiot Republicans. This just put the story back in the news. I know. I mean, it's not going away, man. It's not going away. Every other day, there's like anytime there's like a liberal institution that at least takes itself seriously enough, that applies some scrutiny to people that are mentioned in the Epstein files, it all of a sudden gets back into the news. It gets back into the forefront of the news. There's so much going on there. It's such a target-rich environment of pedophilic elites that it's impossible not to keep this story in the headlines, right?
Johnny Olszewski are trying to dig out information. He took up a Department of Justice offer to search the files without redactions and saw things blacked out that shouldn't have been.
Clearly protecting those who were involved and accused of terrible things.
And those are just the files that have been released. A Channel 4 News investigation suggests they could amount to only 2% of the total.
The extent to which our government continues to withhold these documents is incredibly disturbing and makes me think that it really feels that this is a cover-up worse than Watergate, which was the seminal moment in American politics.
And you say it's like Watergate. Is it going to bring down a president?
Again, I think if the potential crimes and the potential activities that are hinted at are actually chased down and found to be true, it absolutely will bring down this president, as it should bring down any president. I think if it's tracked down and found to be true, it will bring down cabinet secretaries, it will bring down a Supreme Court justice, it will bring down members of Congress. And that's how it should be.
President Trump has always denied wrongdoing, while the Department of Justice...
He looks positively slim in this photo. I do have to say he's kind of slaying. Okay, no disrespect to anybody else, but I know it's not relevant, but he's looking slim. He's looking slim thick.
...has made clear that being in the files does not imply guilt. There are no accusations against Bill Clinton, but his clear association with Jeffrey Epstein will be the subject of questions tomorrow as this scandal continues to unfold. Hillary and Bill Clinton are the first people to have been effectively forced to appear at a deposition. And you can hear in Hillary Clinton's statement that she has read out to lawmakers that she is absolutely furious about that. She thinks it is political. She has said to them, you've made little effort to call the people who show up most prominently in the files. And when one billionaire businessman, Lex Wexner, was questioned, Republicans didn't even turn up. She's talked about spending her life devoted to, women and girls, talking about meeting girls as young as 12 forced into prostitution, calling it a global scourge with an unimaginable human toll. And she has argued that if this is really about the survivors, then all the Epstein files should be out there. I mentioned in the piece that there's been reporting here from the New York Times and also from NPR suggesting that files relating to Donald Trump might be missing, but our own investigations show that the FBI discussed taking in way more files than we have seen, and that is why people feel that this could be a cover-up.
What? So is Bill Feinman going to jail? Fuck no. I have long maintained the position that this is MAP, mutual assured pedophilia destruction. Okay, it's mad theory, but for instead of nuclear arms, we're talking about leaking the pedophile files, right? And I think that's what's like holding it together. But the problem is, because this is an international conspiracy, because Jeffrey Epstein had entanglements with so many other countries, there are always going to be other countries that go, this is not great for us. We have to maintain a presence of law and order. So you got like in Norway, princelings getting the boot. You have in the UK some potential justice being served, right? And when that happens, that applies pressure to the American government, okay? That applies pressure to the American institutions. because then people go, wait a minute, in the fucking United Kingdom, they're actually going after their people. They're going after their Jeffrey Epstein affiliates. Why are we not doing that? This was a similar pressure applied in the issue of Israel, where in European capitals, you had people protesting against their government saying, like, why the fuck are we letting Israel do a genocide? Get the fuck out of here. Like, do something about this. And that was the reason why a lot of European leaders had to come out and release statements about, you know, soft condemnations of Israel or offer some recognition to Palestinian statehood, conditional recognition to Palestinian statehood. But like, they were moving away from America on this issue, which is why Trump had to go in and be like, all right, we're going to do a fake ceasefire, right? And that's kind of what's happening here as well, where there's more scrutiny and more pressure in European countries towards their Jeffrey Epstein affiliates, and that creates an environment where Americans start pressuring the American institutions where Jeffrey Epstein was like heavily involved with said American institutions like Harvard, right? Larry Summers was deeply involved with Jeffrey Epstein. We've known this for All right. Let's continue with this.
Well, I'm now joined by Doug Sosnick, who served as a senior advisor to President Bill Clinton for 6 years. Thank you for joining us. I guess America is so divided that people will divide on how they feel about this. But do you think Hillary Clinton can emerge from her questioning without her reputation damaged?
Well, I think the last person in the world I'd worry about is Hillary Clinton. There's absolutely no reason why she should be called in to testify. She's never met Epstein to her recollection. She's not in the files. This is all about politics. And the chairman of the committee, Mr. Comer, who's been the chairman now for 3 years, so he has a track record, has demonstrated that he's pretty much a backbenching, incompetent political hack on behalf of Trump. And so outside of the MAGA universe, I think the vast majority of people in this country see this for what it is. And I should just add quickly that The Economist came out with a poll this week in which 57% of the country disapproves of how the Trump administration has handled the Epstein matter, and that they believe 53%, which is a majority, believe that there's been a cover-up.
But she did know Ghislaine Maxwell. Maxwell attended Chelsea Clinton's wedding. And that is an uncomfortably close association with a criminal.
Well, that first of all, that's accurate. And the reason that she was there, my understanding was that Hillary had a long-standing relationship with her boyfriend at the time. But that has nothing to do with what the chairman said on your piece before I came on about why he called her in to get to the bottom of a whole series of questions about Epstein and how he got his money, which is ridiculous, of course, because she never met the guy. And the last thing I'll add is Melania Trump, on the other hand, had a long-standing relationship with Epstein, long-standing relationship. And it shows you the absurdity and the politicization of this, that Hillary's being called, and of course, Melania is not.
Well, and of course, Trump. But I mean, the trouble for Hillary Clinton surely is that her whole political career, since she was First Lady, has been dogged by the behavior of her husband. And he gives evidence tomorrow, and there is much more evidence that he did have a relationship with Epstein. There are all those photos of him, that don't look good. Is it possible for Hillary Clinton not to be affected by the claims against Bill?
Well, first of all, I don't think there's a single person in the United States of America that doesn't have a strong opinion about Hillary Clinton at this point. So I think it's very unlikely that this or anything else is going to change that. But this is not about Hillary Clinton, and there's nothing that came out prior to the hearing or in the hearings so far that suggests in any shape or form that she had any dealings with Epstein. So this is not going to, I don't believe, impact her.
Melania's probably a victim. Let's be real. Okay, I wouldn't go that far, but Melania was connected to Trump through Jeffrey Epstein and Jean-Luc Brunel.
In any way.
Right, but what about the impact on Bill Clinton tomorrow when he gives?
I mean, she might have been a victim at some point.
Yeah. Well, that's a different matter. And again, I think most people have a pretty strong opinion one way or the other about Bill Clinton already. And I can just sit here and tell you, I can tell you a couple things. As someone who worked for 6 years for President Clinton, and my office for the last 3 of those years was actually next to the Oval Office, and I went on almost all of his trips for 4 years. I never saw once Epstein either at an event, calling in, never discussed it with him. So I know while, at least when I was there as president, that Epstein had no dealings with Clinton. The matters that have been brought to attention subsequent were after after Clinton had left office.
We're going to begin with this, though. We've got some major new developments in the fallout from those Epstein files. Former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are set to give depositions to Congress starting today in its probe of the Epstein files. There are also new questions this morning over allegations against President Trump and whether key documents involving his name and an accuser were withheld by the Department of Justice. There has also been an apology from billionaire Bill Gates over his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Nicole Killian is in Chappaqua, New York, where the Clintons will give their depositions. Nicole, good morning. This continues, the fallout continues, and we keep hearing there's more to come. We're also hearing that another member of the global elite has become the latest casualty of the Epstein files. What's this one about?
Yeah, that's right, Gail, and good morning to you. We are learning that the CEO of the Davos Forum has resigned, the latest member of the global elite to face consequences for ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Meantime, here in the U.S., the Clintons are set to appear behind closed doors for taped depositions after being threatened with contempt of Congress.
Images in the Epstein files show powerful men like President Trump, former President Bill Clinton, and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates in undated photos with women. All three adamantly deny any criminal wrongdoing and have not been charged in connection with Jeffrey Epstein.
Every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize that I did that.
The Microsoft mogul apologized to the Gates Foundation staff Tuesday and admitted to having extramarital affairs with 2 Russian women, but added, "I did nothing illicit," in a recording obtained by
Regular hard news coverage and commentary, and More Perfect Union is brilliant. They're fantastic. I just don't, sometimes I don't have time to do
The
it.
convicted sex offender said he had been helping Bill to get drugs in order to deal with consequences of sex with Russian girls, including antibiotics to surreptitiously give to Melinda. Gates' ex-wife spoke earlier this month on an NPR podcast.
For me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage.
But the focus now isn't just whose names appear, it's what some lawmakers say isn't there.
It's very clear the evidence is pointing to these documents are missing.
The top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee is raising concerns that documents related to allegations by an Epstein survivor who accused Trump of sexual misconduct may be missing from the documents that were released to the public.
It's a survivor who has made serious allegations of the president, and that needs to be investigated.
Something another Epstein survivor, Elizabeth Stein, says goes beyond any one person.
Anytime that we find anything that could potentially be missing, we need to call attention to it, regardless of who it's about.
And Harvard University announced its former president, Larry Summers, will relinquish his remaining roles following an internal Epstein review. Summers served as Treasury Secretary under former President Bill Clinton. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton will be deposed here today, while her husband will follow tomorrow. Nate?
Nicole, thank you.
There are growing questions this hour about dozens of records that appear to be missing from the Epstein files. According to a CNN review, those records in question are FBI witness interviews, and 3 of the missing interviews are related to a woman who accused both Jeffrey Epstein and...
How will the Republicans spin this? I guess they'll just spin the block and refuse to cover it, right? My favorite contrarian in this entire Jeffrey Epstein saga has been the perennial contrarian Michael Treacy, who's waging war on the internet right now. He will take the opposition position on every single issue, and it's awesome that he straight up is like, we need to defend the pedophilic cabal. Like, we need to defend the pedophilic billionaires. He's been aggressively attacking the victims. saying that they're all like harlots and liars and all this stuff. When they got defenders like Mike Tracy, where's there to worry about? Howard Lutnick confirmed visitor to Epstein's pedophile island showed up to the State of the Union, all smiles, zero shame. And also, I think Howard Lutnick shook Chuck Schumer's hand too at some point. Oh, there it is. It's a big club and you ain't in it is so real, except you don't want to be a part of this big club anyway, right?
President Trump of sexually assaulting her.
Unless you're fucking Nick Fuentes or one of these losers who's now saying like, well, Jeffrey Epstein was kind of based actually. Unless you're a
The top
groyper.
Democrat on the Oversight Committee is among those expressing concern.
I went to the DOJ file search room yesterday to look for these documents that are in the manifest document, and they should be in there, and they're not there. These documents relate to a survivor that has made serious allegations about the president. What's important now is that the DOJ explain to us why were those documents removed.
CNN's Kara Scannell joins us now. So, Kara, what more do we know about the specifics of these documents?
Well, Erica, the CNN investigative team have taken a look into these records, and they found that there are dozens of files that are missing. And the way that they were able to do this is they looked at the serial numbers that were on an evidence log provided to Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. And looking at those serial numbers, discovered that there were dozens of them missing. I mean, these all relate to 302s. That's the FBI form for witness interviews. And there are 325 included on that list, but there are 90 of them missing. And within those 90 that are missing includes 3 from a woman who said that she was sexually assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein going back to when she was as young as 13 years old. And she also made an allegation that she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump in the 19...
By the way, whenever they say young woman, it blows my fucking mind because the victim is like barely a like the victim is a baby, okay? He's a child. Like 13-year-old is not a fucking young woman, okay? 13-year-old's a little girl. Like, holy shit. Like, we're not even talking about a minor who's like 17 when they already do, they already say young woman when they're talking about a 17-year-old. And it's like, okay, well, you're very liberal in your use of the language here because that's still a fucking teenager. That's still a child. That's still a minor. But you're now talking about like a 13-year-old and you're like, oh, young woman. Like, that's insane. We're talking about like barely out of being a fucking preteen. Like, what are we talking about?
1980s. Now, we went to the White House with this. They said that these are false allegations and it's just sensationalist. The Justice Department said that they have not deleted any documents and that they said that if there are documents that are not on the public website, that's either because they were duplicates, privileged, or part of an ongoing investigation. We have seen with the release of these records on the public website that sometimes documents are there, they're taken down, then they're put back up. It's unclear if there is any process that is underway related to these specific documents and these allegations against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, though, has not been accused of any wrongdoing. He's not been investigated for any wrongdoing. And it's unclear what happened to these specific allegations by this woman who spoke with investigators in 2019. There was another record in the files, a summary from the FBI about a number of these salacious allegations, and it said that one person claimed abuse by Trump but refused to cooperate. So if that is that same person, it could be that they just reached a dead end. But of course, Democrats are calling foul, as they have repeatedly, about the Justice Department's process of publicizing the records that are required under the law and redactions that they have taken.
Hours after this story broke today, the Justice Department responded to questions of where these documents are, saying, as with all documents flagged by the public, the department is currently reviewing files within that category of production. Should any document be found to have been improperly tagged in the review process and is responsive to the act, meaning the law that forced them to publish all of this, the department will, of course, publish it consistent with that law. My source tonight is California Congressman Dave Min, who is a Democrat on the House Oversight Committee. And thank you for being here. When you hear that response from the Justice Department, do you believe that's sufficient?
Thanks so much for having me, Caitlin. And the answer is no, it's not. They are not responding to the law. And at this point, I think it appears clearer and clearer every day that they are knowingly violating and willfully violating the law that we passed, that Donald Trump signed into law, requiring them to turn over every responsive document. And I want to be clear, just to clarify two things that I think you alluded to. One, Donald Trump is accused of sexually assaulting a child in those memos that you mentioned. Two, that it's not just a few dozen documents that are not being turned over. Fully half of the documents that we're aware of, some 3 million documents, have not been turned over by the DOJ. They claim they fully responded, and yet we've found over and over again, and I can tell you that oversight Democratic staff have confirmed what you have found, that these documents are missing. They were not turned over, even though they were very clearly responsive to the questions that we asked. And this appears to be part of a very broad cover-up. And you may remember back to last May, when Pam Bondi reportedly told Donald Trump he was in the Epstein files. After that, there were a lot of reports that DOJ attorneys were being asked to go redact documents, to hide documents, to remove documents from the files that had Donald Trump's name. So we're definitely continuing to look at this, but it appears that the DOJ is willfully violating the law.
Yeah, and of course, an interview or a witness statement, it doesn't mean that it happened. I mean, you can read through these documents. Yep. There's a lot in there. But in terms of what should be published in accordance with the law that you passed, and these haven't been, I mean, do you believe that they're intentionally breaking that law, or do you think it's because, which is what we've heard from DOJ, they had so much to publish, such a compressed time frame? That's the issue here.
Yeah. And so just to give you a quick heads up on my background, I was a federal enforcement attorney to start my career at the SEC. I have spent many, many hours doing this type of document review and management and looking things through. And at this point, I do not believe that this is just a delay in turning the documents over. The fact that so many Donald Trump related documents have not been turned over, that his name's been repeatedly redacted, matches a lot of the reports that we heard that they were trying to cover this up. And at this point, I think, look,
the chat has come to the consensus that she mogs him. I mean, Caitlyn mogs most. Let's be real. Like, she holds frame. She's frame mogging everybody. She's brow maxing. It's not even a question.
Everybody's entitled.
She is the Mog Queen, Queen Mog.
Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Les Wexner, anybody else. But the fact is that everything here looks like the DOJ is, again, under the direction of Pam Bondi, the AG, willfully trying to hide a lot of what's happening right now.
Starting us off, Republican member of the House Oversight Committee, Congresswoman Anna Paulina.
Just psycho. Okay, let's hear from this psychopath.
Congressman, thank you for joining me this evening. I mean, you have heard likely the Department of Justice saying that they are looking into whether the files mentioning President Trump were improperly removed. Do you trust them to be transparent in that inquiry?
I have followed up on a number of occasions similar, and they have been very forthcoming. I've actually talked directly to Todd Blanche, and so I will personally be ensuring that that's followed through on. But I would like to also state that I think that the files that we have currently under this administration are likely not the full files. I do believe that some were destroyed previously. And I say that because in January of last year, when I was the only member of Congress that was pushing for the release of these files, we actually had a whistleblower come forward. I actually introduced legislation because of that. I even forwarded this finding to the FBI for investigation that there was destruction of evidence. And so it'll probably require a longer segment, but I will say that there have been redactions that we've come across. I've looked at the files for a number of hours. Whenever we flag those files, they are immediately then unredacted. But there has, and it does seem to be kind of an internal war going on even at the Department of Justice, where they have the order, and then you have some of the attorneys that have been in charge of the redactions. And so we're doing everything that we can to deliver on transparency. But as you can see, Epstein and his involved network is quite extensive and involves a lot of people.
Well, Congresswoman, that does not really inspire confidence if you believe files have been destroyed, that transparency is not complete, if it's not been thorough. How can the American public, who are not privy to what you say you've seen, who do not have access to the files, how can they be confident that the Attorney General, Bondi, leading this charge, or others who are in charge of providing documents, that they really will do so in the interest of justice?
Well, I think that for starters, you have a bipartisan oversight committee actually working to not cover up, but actually go into all of this, right? We're interviewing the Clintons tomorrow. But to be clear, I mean, the destruction of evidence occurred under previous administrations. And that in itself, if you look at the network that was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, to think that there aren't shady things happening in your government, I think would just be a lie to the American people. The fact is that we did have someone come forward. They did say that there was destruction of evidence under the former deputy director of the FBI. And even if you're looking at the original plea deals that Jeffrey Epstein was given, you know, when he was first charged and then also more recently when he then committed suicide in New York, I mean, he should have never gotten off. He should have never had his sentences dropped down to the way that he did. And there are marks of intelligence surrounding this as well, whether it was foreign or, you know, our own. But I don't think that we're ever going to get the full picture. And so I think that when you're talking about the story as a whole, these things, we try to be transparent. I'm telling the American people directly on my social media is what I'm finding out as we learn them. But I think the Jeffrey Epstein case in itself will kind of go down in history as one of those things that we might not fully ever get the answers on.
A document from the Epstein files shows the
real solution here is to have an independent committee, an independent prosecutor investigate the DOJ, because it's obvious that, like, if the cover-up is being conducted by the Department of Justice, then the Department of Justice cannot investigate its own fucking cover-up. The problem also with an independent commission would still, an independent commission could still be redirected in a subsequent cover-up of the cover-up investigation, especially when we're talking about someone who is as compromised and as deeply entangled with not only the CIA, but also with Mossad. And that's it. That is the real reason. This person did not get this level of access into the American intelligence agencies, while also simultaneously keeping a close relationship with foreign intelligence agencies, and also being a fixer and a sex trafficker and a partier and a networker amongst, like, the American or the international elite, basically. And was able to do this for years and years and years, and then not have that lead to any sort of scrutiny whatsoever. It's like they're all in on it. They're all in on it. I hope all of you in this chat contract a very rare disease and die, or legalize lobotomies for the mentally ill. Are you a Jeffrey Epstein defender? Are you an Epstein truther? Very strange time to come in to say, because this is supposed to be like a unifying message for everybody, right? Like, regardless of how right-wing you might be. I mean, you're about to lose your account. That's definitely like a site-wide ban, but I hope before Twitch kicks you off the platform for saying this, you can answer my question. Are you a stan of Jeffrey Epstein? Like, what's going on? You're a Epstein guy? Quick, very strange hill to die on. Someone pull his Asmongold logs. I want to know more. Because, like, considering that the Jeffrey Epstein stuff is, like, as close to, like, class warfare from the pro side as we're going to get, I'm legitimately confused when someone comes in and is, like, quick to defend Jeffrey Epstein, right? It's very shocking. Because I feel like you could go to the American heartland. You could go to West Virginia and talk to, like, a Republican, lifelong Republican, or, you know, recently swapped Republican MAGA diehard in a Trump plus 35 district. And they probably would also be like, yeah, fuck Jeffrey Epstein and fuck everyone involved with him. They might not connect him to Donald Trump as willingly as we do. But overall, this is a fairly unifying message. But I guess he's got no response to it, huh? Like, we're over here being like, hey, we should take down the international pedophilic crime ring, like sex trafficking ring, and all of the billionaires that are affiliated with it, regardless of party affiliation. And this guy's like, nah, fuck you guys. You guys are all enemies of mine. If you're going after, I'm waging class warfare on the side of the pedophilic billionaires. Like, okay.
Late sex offender went to greater lengths than previously known to conceal potential evidence of his crimes. 11 days before police raided Epstein's Palm Beach mansion in 2005, a private investigator took away computers, telephone directories, sex toys, and pornography. The items are inventoried in a previously unseen memo the investigator prepared for Epstein's lawyer, who had given instructions to remove items of potential evidentiary value from Epstein's home. A lawyer who represents scores of Epstein's victims has long believed he was tipped off the police were coming.
You see him working hand in hand with his lawyers and private investigators to make sure that his decades-long sex trafficking operation was not uncovered. So it shows you the incredible power he had.
In video taken by Palm Beach police on the day of the search, you can see officers zero in on monitors, keyboards, and printers, but the computers appeared to be missing. The inventory list says the private eye removed 3 computers, a 3-page directory of Florida masseuses, and a photograph of a white female. There were also nude photos, sex manuals, and 29 telephone directories believed to hold Epstein's contacts of the rich and powerful.
It's just incredibly frustrating because if we had had this information 10 years ago, we could have spared a lot of lives.
Prosecutors went to great lengths in 2007 to obtain the missing computers, believing they contained relevant and potentially critical information. But Epstein's lawyers fought to keep them away from prosecutors, and they have never been fully recovered. And this morning, the Justice Department says it is reviewing whether materials about an unproven sexual assault accusation against President Trump were omitted from public release. Documents related to the woman who made the claim, which dates to more than 40 years ago when the accuser was a minor, could not be located in a search by ABC News. Trump has long denied any wrongdoing, and the Justice Department says it will publish any documents found to have been improperly tagged in the review process. Now, what happened?
Just a oopsie, man. Just a oopsie. We combed through millions of files, and oopsie, we just happened to improperly file the 13-year-old who accused Donald Trump of statutory rape. It's just, who would have guessed it, you know?
To Epstein's Palm Beach computers and all of the other items taken out of the house remains a mystery. The lawyer who arranged to remove the items died last year, and guys, we could not reach the private investigator hired for the job.
Amazing, there's still a mystery here.
Yep.
Thank you, Aaron.
Quote, "We got you," spelled with a U, the letter. That's what the governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands told Jeffrey Epstein just months before Epstein's arrest in 2019. And obviously, of course, more than a decade after he was already convicted of soliciting a minor for prostitution back in 2008. Newly released Justice Department documents show that as regulators investigated unauthorized construction on one of Epstein's 2 private islands, issuing stop work orders and weighing potential fines, Epstein appealed directly to the island's governor for help. Text messages uncovered by K-Files show Governor Albert Bryan Jr. telling Epstein he had asked one of the regulators to, quote, hold everything until speaking with him, and later sought the recusal of the commissioner overseeing the dispute. K-Files' Andrew Kaczynski joins me now. And, you know, Andrew, this is so important as we get to the heart of Jeffrey Epstein and how he had the power and money that he had and how he wielded it, and this entire circle. So this gets to the influence and how he wielded it. What do these messages reveal?
Yeah, and you hit it right there. These messages, they offer a rare window into how Epstein operated in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where he leveraged his wealth, business footprint, and promises of investment to try to influence local officials. Now, I want to give people a little background here. Epstein had deep roots in the Virgin Islands. He bought his private island, Little St. James, in the 1990s. He later expanded. You can see them both there. He later expanded his footprint in 2016 and purchased neighboring Great St. James. And the permits show that he had plans to build docks, roads, residencies, and other development. And this is where these texts with the governor come into play. Now, by December 2018, regulators were scrutinizing construction on Great St. James. The Virginian Islands Department of Planning and Natural Resources had issued a stop work order and began reviewing potential violations. Epstein then reaches out directly to then the newly elected governor, Democrat Albert Bryan Jr. Look at this exchange between the two. Epstein complained about potential fines, and Bryan said he spoke to John Pierre Orel, that is the commissioner of the department, who they're calling JP in these texts, and he asked him, Bryan said he had asked him to, quote, hold everything until he and the attorney spoke to me later. Epstein complains that the same commissioner, JP, was, quote, going after me in the press, to which Bryan responded that he had asked the commissioner to recuse himself. And then in another subsequent message, Bryan wrote, I asked him to recuse himself and concede on all previous permit requests. Now, the documents don't show what.
I mean, this is the beginning of this relationship, which obviously led to so much further scrutiny that there was like a legal case against the islands. So it's not, this is stuff that isn't even new information, really. Like, this is stuff that we know about because there was a separate court case against the Virgin Islands already. They've been, they were, like, Jeffrey Epstein was basically running the show over there. It's pretty fucked up. I guess it doesn't hurt that there's like even more confirmation now in the public eye, but this is something that we've covered before.
Ultimately change. But what they do show is this. There was an active regulatory dispute. Epstein was communicating directly with the governor of the territory, and the governor was telling him that he was intervening on his behalf. Later, when Bryan...
If you were to speculate when in his life do you think Epstein was tapped and recruited by intelligence, I think like right before the Iran-Contra affair, like right when he got into Bear Stearns the first time. Like, I don't know exactly what point in his life where his career changed so dramatically, but I think it was fairly early on, because he went from working under Bill Barr's dad at a New York school as like a math teacher in the Dalton school to being on the floor at Bear Stearns. And at that point, and that was Bill Barr's dad who gave him the job at the Dalton school, for the record. Bill Barr, the attorney general under Trump, like when Jeffrey Epstein was killed in prison, under the watchful gaze of Bill Barr, there was there were connections between Bill Barr and Jeffrey Epstein far before then. Bill Barr's dad was Jeffrey Epstein's boss, the principal at the Dalton School in New York.
And was asked under oath in a 2023 deposition whether he had received Epstein received any special favors or treatment from him. He answered repeatedly and simply no.
All right, Andrew, obviously your reporting is very illuminating on that front, and also shows this is not just a few text messages, okay? So when, again, we get to power and how he was wielding it.
3 months worth of text messages.
3 months
January, and they end in June, and obviously Epstein is then arrested in July.
Oh.
The detained Columbia student posted that she's free. She follows you on IG. Let me see if we can reach out to her and talk to her about what happened. L. Harvey? What is it? ELL Harvey E? Oh, yeah, she does. All right. Didn't Zoran finesse? Didn't Zoran finesse to get her out? Yeah. This is a Columbia student with 106,000 followers, as a matter of fact, that was apprehended. On Wednesday, almost a year after DHS agents took Mahmoud Khalil from his residency, Columbia students rallied on campus to demand the school protect them from ICE. Hours later, DHS took another student from a Columbia residential building. And Eli Agayeva, the Columbia student detained by ICE this morning, has been released and just posted this on our Instagram. Comes after New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani expresses concern on the arrest to Donald Trump in a meeting just earlier. She said, "Hi, guys. I am so grateful for every one of you. I just got out a little while ago. I'm safe and okay. I'm in an Uber on the way back home. I'm so sorry, but I'm in complete shock over what happened, and my phone is blowing up with calls from reporters. Need a little bit of time to process everything, but I will come back soon. But please don't worry. I love you all." She's Azeri, right? Yeah, Elmina Ayeva. They got a dame influencer? Yeah, I mean, that's probably part of the reason why. She probably was on some lists. If you attract any attention whatsoever to like any of these like Canary Mission style operations, the DHS will come and grab you. It's very clear, and it's fucking insane. Yes, this is the Columbia student that was nabbed on Wednesday. Okay? Fucking insane. So, Jeffrey Epstein is what from what? Okay. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that after in a little bit. Let's get back to the Jeffrey Epstein situation.
Okay. And as we point out, this all went down, this whole back and forth 11 years after he was,
and after the Miami Herald's investigative series, which was in the November of 2018.
Right. So all of this then is known. There were meetings, there were attempts to meet as well that you've unveiled here. What do the records show?
Well, Aaron, that's right. The messages suggest this was not their first contact. Emails from September 2018, while Brian was campaigning for governor, show aides coordinating a meeting between Brian and Epstein at Epstein's financial firm in the Virgin Islands. In April 2019, as this dispute was unfolding, Epstein texted Brian right there. He says, "Can you spare 15 minutes?" To which Brian replied, "For you, absolutely." Epstein and Brian then coordinated the meeting at what appeared to be the office of Epstein's longtime Virgin Islands tax attorney. There are also emails referencing additional meetings and phone calls, including, again, outreach through his longtime Virgin Islands attorney. So the documents show an ongoing line of communication, both during Brian's campaign and later as Epstein was dealing with the regulators. Now, we reached out to Brian and his spokespeople many, many times over the past 5 days, and we did not hear back from any of them.
All right. And of course, you'll let us know if you do. It is amazing, though, all of this every day, new information coming out, digging through these files. And I say that in the context of, we're weeks past the stuff coming out. We're getting more every day, even so. And Ro Khanna said on this show last night that we only have, he said, half of the documents that are out there, and the half we don't have, he says, is the bad half. Think about that.
Breaking news regarding those apparent missing Epstein files related to President Trump. I want to bring in CNN correspondent Kara Scannell. Kara, you just got this update from the Justice Department. What are they saying?
Yeah, Casey, as you remember, CNN and other news outlets had reported that there appeared to be about 90 302s. Those are the FBI interviews with witness reports missing from the Epstein files that are publicly available, all coming from a privilege log that was turned over to Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys. 3 of those 302s that appear to be missing relate to a woman who claimed that she was sexually assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein and said that she was sexually assaulted by Donald Trump in the 1980s. Initially, DOJ said that the documents were either not posted because they were duplicative, they were privileged, or they were part of an ongoing investigation. We just got a new statement from the Justice Department where they say, as the Department of Justice has consistently said and has done since the January 30th, 2026 publication of the Epstein files, if any member of the public, including victims, reported concerns with information in the pages, the department would review, make any corrections, and republish online. Several individuals and news outlets have recently flagged files related to documents produced to Ghislaine Maxwell in discovery of her criminal case that they claim appear to be missing. As with all documents that have been flagged by the public, the department is currently reviewing files within that category of the production. Should any document be found to have been improperly tagged in the review process and is responsive to the act, the department will, of course, publish it consistent with the law. So now DOJ saying it is going to review this trial.
I got some negative videos on YouTube feed by this creator, HasanAbi, but on Twitter, he supports you, Lamau. This is a 10-month subscriber. Chatter, that's one of my editors. HasanAbi, are you in here? You see this shit? This motherfucker has not let up. Austin Knox has led to some of my most pivotal cancellations on Twitter for years and years. He was there at the inception point of the Fuck Hasan content and commentary. It's because you eat animals? I know. It's so funny. Austin Knox doing God's work? No, man. No. I had to literally tell him to stop. It's just, I had to straight up tell him to stop. Tell him to watch Azan You for some enlightening stuff. I had to literally be like, bro, you don't understand. Like, people can't recognize when you're joking. They use it. Like, all my fucking ops are using the shit that you're, like, the shit that this community is memeing on to destroy my life.
Bunch of records that CNN and others have been able to identify based on the serial number, so it shouldn't be difficult for them to locate them in theory, and so that they will review them and then publish them if it is complying with the act. So we will wait to see what hits those public records in the next couple hours and days. Casey.
All right, fair enough. Kara Scannell, thanks very much for that reporting. Sochi Hinojosa, you were kind of nodding along with Kara just because you worked at the Department of Justice. I think you have an understanding of what this is. I mean, she did a good job of laying it out, but I mean, why do we know these are there? What does it say that they're missing?
Well, it essentially is saying that there are these FBI files, that there are normally interviews of witnesses, et cetera, that I am assuming are potentially in other places within the FBI, et cetera. What I will say is that this entire thing and the fact that there have been the missing of these documents just shows how the Justice Department was not prepared to do this and why the Justice Department usually does not put out their case files. For the reason that case files live everywhere. They don't just live at the FBI. They're at the U.S. Attorney's Office, multiple U.S. Attorney's Offices, National Security Division, DEA, I mean, all of these places. And so when you say, I want every file on X issue, what ends up happening is that you are trusting all of these entities to come together and to give you those files. Yes, things will be missing. There are people in the National Security Division that are looking through each one of these files. There is human error. There are things like that. So what you're seeing right now, what we've seen over the last few weeks, is sort of this chaos and what happens because the Justice Department normally does not do this.
Yeah, but in this case, I mean, the reason, my understanding of our reporting is that this was a manifest that was given to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney. So they should have known that it existed.
Yes, and they should have known. You're exactly right. I think that there will be questions about why was it missing, who left it out, why was it at some point taken out of the original tranche, and where did it originate from in the first place? So yes, there are those questions, but it also goes to show you that there isn't someone in there looking at each of these files to figure out whether or not that they've made public, they're in compliance with the law. And also in every one of these instances, I will say, how long have we been talking about this? If they would have released all of these files at once when they were supposed to be released, we wouldn't be talking about this past January.
Should there have been a special master?
That's not true.
I think there should have been an independent person.
No, you wish. You're out of your dang mind. Oh, yeah. It's really tough to release all of these files at once. There's, of course, going to be a lot of duplicates, and each individual agency is redacting different aspects of it. But also, if we were to release them all at once, everyone would have stopped talking about it. That's bullshit. Okay? That's bullshit. It probably would have softened the blow a little bit, or it would have made the pain worse initially. Okay? It would have made the pain worse initially. There would have been a lot of conversations about it, but then slowly but surely people would go through the files and would most likely come to the same conclusions that people are coming to right now in real time, because the incidents took place, the crimes took place, the connections are still very real, and the people that were deeply connected to Jeffrey Epstein are still very much a part of elite society. Okay? So I think people's resentment, people's animosity, people's anger would not have gone away. Did the Trump administration, with their slow rolling of the documentation, with their heavy redactions, actually make it worse? Sure. But the idea that you can chalk this up to, like disorganization, and that's the reason why there's a bigger story here, is bullshit. When Like, there still would have been a lot of attention on this stuff. There was a lot of attention on this stuff before the documents were released.
Right, that sort of dealt
Correct.
with this.
Yes, an independent person who could have dealt with this.
Chuck, I want to go back to the point you were making before the break, which is this idea of the Epstein class, because, I mean, that really is the thing that has stuck out to me as we have learned more and more about this. Something that started in the realm where everybody wanted to call it a conspiracy theory, right? Both Democrats and Republicans that I talked to in this town would say that it was a conspiracy theory. There were people in the MAGA base for President Trump that really wanted these files out. His vice president was one of the loudest.
And they still do. This is the one area. This is the one area where the base is at odds with the administration. And that's precisely the reason why the administration had to lean into it and reveal it. And of course, because they're so fucking incompetent, when they inevitably gave in, when they inevitably caved, they did not realize that the reaction would continue. They did not realize that the scrutiny would only increase. And here we are. I mean, it's not going to go away. This is why I kept saying over and over again, this story is not fucking going away. Because if you recall initially, there were a lot of people in my audience that were like, I don't know, this is a cult, which is perfectly reasonable for you to, I mean, it is a cult, right? It's perfectly reasonable for you to come to that assessment, come to that conclusion, and be like, this is a cult. I don't think they're going to care too much. But no, they do. They do. It is the purest expression of class warfare that, like, it is the purest, like, it's the closest that I think us Americans have ever arrived at, like an understanding of class. Because this is the maximum worst possible thing that billionaires can do and get away with. And they clearly got away with it. So no matter how right-wing you are, no matter how much you believe that, like, you know, billionaires are actually trying to do well and trying to do right by everybody, and it's an aspirational goal. No one is thinking it's an aspirational goal to be a part of an international sex trafficking of minors ring, right? And that's it. So no matter how much these guys like suck up to the super wealthy and say they're jobs creators and cope and whatever, ultimately they don't, like, with the exception of a couple incels and groypers and people like that, most people look at the situation and go, this is gross, this is disgusting, we need truth. We don't care if it actually ends up harming people on our side of the political spectrum.
Voices on this, and they come into office, they're somehow, you know, not interested. You know, the president is literally calling members of Congress into the Situation Room to convince them not to vote for a law that will ultimately release these files. Then we get the files, and it turns out that everybody that said these files showed something that really stank were right. They were all right. And for the president of the United States and his base, who are still saying that this is a problem for them, like, how does he keep going the way he's going in his like, regardless of whether or not he ever actually did anything wrong, right? We're not saying we saw something that's in the files that says Donald Trump, you know, committed a crime, et cetera, et cetera. To Scott's point, there's, you know, whistleblowing in there. But for his base that is saying, give us the Epstein class, and he doesn't, what problem does that create for him?
Well, I think it does create some problem with some parts of his base when they feel let down about another issue. It's just sort of like, you know, over time that chips away. It becomes a trust thing. But, you know, let me also step back. There was a lot of people that believed, you know, a lot of strange things about Epstein. And so the craziest conspiracies have proven not to be true. But that doesn't mean what was done was not bad, right?
Really? Is that your takeaway? The craziest elements of the Epstein conspiracy have been proven not to be true? Is that was your takeaway? What are some of the craziest, like, I don't know, eating babies? Sure. Okay. Some people believe that, like, Tom Hanks was eating children. Okay. That's not true. Fine. But that's a very vague generalization here. If you're saying that international capital was deeply embedded and entrenched in an international sex trafficking ring led by a CIA and possible Mossad agent, that was trafficking weapons and destabilizing countries and selling Israeli surveillance to other countries and selling American surveillance like Palantir to Israel. All of that is 100% true. And if you look at it broadly, I would go so far as to say Cassie Hunt's analysis on this is correct and yours is wrong, Cuck Todd, that yes, this actually did vindicate a lot of fucking conspiracy theorists. If anything, it frustrates me endlessly whenever people come in and they hyper focus on Pizzagate and how this actually vindicates the Pizzagators and shit like that. It's not true. It's the exact opposite. But there are plenty of elements here that are real.
And I think that this is why this has been a difficult, why you've seen everybody handle this. It's not what people rumored and feared that it was.
Your analysis often misses at the point that the base only wants these files out if it's bad for the other political side. This is team sports like always. I don't think that's entirely correct. But even if people have that as a motivator, then great, because guess what? It still reveals information. But this is a bipartisan effort between Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna. They were the champions of this revelation. And guess what? In the aftermath of that, there have been people who have received more scrutiny than they ever did before in their lives, and we have this information at our disposal now. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that regardless of the motivation, it's kind of like the WikiLeaks stuff, right? People will be like, "Oh, Julian Assange hates Hillary Clinton." And Julian Assange worked with FSB and only released the files that they had on the DNC. They never released the files that they had on the RNC. And if you recall at the time, if you were in here back then, I said, I don't give a shit, right? I don't care that like this was a partisan initiative because at the end of the day, those conversations at the DNC were happening. Those were real communiques that we now have access to as a direct consequence of Julian Assange's brave work at WikiLeaks. Okay? It doesn't matter if it's like done in a partisan manner. Don't you want to know the truth? And the same goes for this case at all as well. You got Democrats that want Republicans to be tarred and feathered. Great. And you have Republicans that think elite Democrats are going to be the only ones that are held responsible. That's also great. Fantastic. It doesn't matter to us. If you care about the truth, then use this moment to your advantage. And also, I don't even think that what you're saying is all that correct. The other day, there was a Trump supporter there was a Trump supporter who was 21 years old from North Carolina that went to a fucking Walmart, purchased a shotgun and a gas canister, and walked up to Mar-a-Lago, got shot and killed by Secret Service. That's a Trump supporter. Now, obviously, I'm not urging people to do that. That would be fucking insane. But what I'm trying to say is a Trump supporter did see that and clearly didn't have that partisan approach, okay? There are a lot more Trump supporters. There are a lot more Trump supporters out there, I think, that see this as a bipartisan incident. And that reflects the data as well, for the record. Here it is. Americans believe the Epstein files shows that the powerful get a pass. Reuters Ipsos poll finds among all adults, 69% strongly agree that the Jeffrey Epstein files show that powerful people are rarely held accountable. This is why I said this is the purest expression of class. Purest expression of class you can ever arrive at, where you have somewhat agree at 17%, strongly agree at 69%, and disagree at 11%. Do you understand how crazy that is? Even among Republicans, 58% say they strongly agree that the Epstein files prove that powerful people are rarely held accountable, and 28% somewhat agree. Even among Republicans, I'm sorry, this is something that transcends party lines. You can say part of the reason why it was because conservatives oftentimes trafficked in conspiracy in the realm of conspiracy. Turns out some of those conspiracies were real and it wasn't a fucking conspiracy theory at all. But ultimately, This is the reason. This is the reason why I say this is something that is totally nonpartisan. You're a Republican, you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter. You see all of these super wealthy people running around and playing patty cakes with Jeffrey Epstein. And it's impossible for you not to recognize that there's something beyond partisan affiliation here at play. It's a class issue. The files have lowered my trust in political and business leaders is another important one, where 53% of all adults say strongly agree and 24% somewhat agree. Amongst Republicans, 33% say they strongly agree that the Epstein files have lowered their trust in political and business leaders, and 35% say they somewhat agree that the Epstein files revelations have lowered their trust in political and business leaders. That's huge. Okay? The hardest part of this would be to decouple the MAGA base from Trump directly by consistently hammering on the point that Donald Trump was a primary recipient, was a primary co-conspirator, was a friend to Jeffrey Epstein. They don't want to see that reality, and that's fine. As long as, I mean, it's not fine, but like you work with what you have, right? This is why I kept saying over and over again that this is, one, not going to fucking go away regardless of what you think, and two, that this is a unique opportunity to actually keep hammering on the point that this is an issue that transcends partisan lines, and this is a class issue. How do you think the powerful are unaccountable but not have that fact lower your trust? You think that there are some business elites that you still believe are trustworthy, I guess, that you think are not embroiled in controversy. Embroiled? Sorry. I accidentally said embroiled. Epstein is to America what Littlefinger is to King's Landing? Sure. MESL, benevolent. MESL. What's Nick Shirley's fucking excuse?